What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
So, Nick, Dana White gave us a little bit of Khamzat Chimaev news. He said two things. One, that his next fight is going to be at 185 pounds, for sure. That's a concluded fact. And two, that it will be somebody in the top three. Now, I think he kind of gave away the next opponent by saying those two things just due to process of elimination. The top three at 185 right now are Israel Adesanya at 1, Robert Whittaker at 2, and now Marvin Vettori after his win over Roman at number 3. Marvin just fought. Israel's got a date with Alex Pereira, and so that really just leaves Robert Whittaker. So I think the next opponent for Khamzat's going to be Robert Whittaker.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And anytime we get Khamzat news, I get a little excited. Love him or hate him, he's one of the most entertaining guys the sport has right now. And I just love the experiment of him going back and forth from 170 to 185. But eventually that had to come to an end so he could settle into a division and start making his way towards the title. And for me, 185 just seems like the better option for him. It seems like he might have a difficult time getting to 170. And I think he's the perfect size for 185. He can handle the strength with the grappling. He can handle the strength with the striking. And I think he looks best at 185. And as you were saying, as far as opponents go, it seems like Robert Whittaker's the only option for him. Like you said, Marvin Vettori was just in a great fight that he won, but it was a tough fight for him, no doubt. And Izzy and the champ, Alex Pereira, have business to settle, so we don't want to wait that much longer for Khamzat's return. I feel like they need to get him in there maybe on the July card, the International Fight Weekend, and get Robert Whittaker in there because everybody loves when Robert Whittaker's fighting. And if there's anybody that you have to beat in order to earn a title shot at middleweight, it's Robert Whittaker.
Well, that's just it. And I think the biggest issue and the biggest piece of frustration that all of us fans had with the UFC regarding Khamzat Chimaev was that there was just simply no news for the longest time. And a big part of the Khamzat Chimaev experience that made him so popular back in those early days was that he was literally fighting on back-to-back weekends. He was saying, I'll take a fight at this weight class. I'll take a fight at that weight class. I'll fight this Saturday and come back and fight at 185 next Saturday. So it was very exciting. It was a breath of fresh air. It was cool to see. But now that he's reached the elite level of fighters, we need to know which weight class are you actually going to focus on and who are going to be your likely opponents. And we haven't really had a lot of clarity on that up until now. Now, I think Israel Adesanya, if he loses to Alex again, there's a 50-50 chance that he's going to call it a day and he may just retire because he's already had the belt. He's been the champion for so long that his really only goal now, that he's even said it himself, is that he needs to beat Alex Pereira. He doesn't care if it's in the parking lot of the T-Mobile Arena. He just wants to beat Alex Pereira in a fight. He doesn't care about the belt, and he had it for so long, you can't blame him. And now Marvin Vettori, just coming off of that war with Roman Dolidze, is going to need some time off. So Robert Whittaker is an excellent matchup for Khamzat Chimaev. He's a great 185er. He's not the biggest 185er, so I don't think the size will play much of a factor. Like if you were to put like Paulo Costa in there with Khamzat, that's a pretty big size difference, even though I think Khamzat could overcome that difference. I think that Robert Whittaker versus Khamzat Chimaev answers all the questions we need to know about Chimaev. Can he really compete with the elite of the elite in the sport, a former champion, a potential Hall of Famer in Whittaker, who's got great wrestling defense? Now, he's not a traditional wrestler. He didn't come up through the ranks, but he has certainly improved his wrestling game and shown that he can take down and defend takedowns against the very best. And his striking is elite level and it's lights out. So I think the UFC's idea here is to take Khamzat, put him against Robert, and see if he can win. And if the answer to that question is yes, then they're putting him right in there for a title shot. Now, I think the logjam is going to be broken up a little bit at 185 because Alex Pereira is just so damn big. So if he beats Israel Adesanya again, and I think there's a pretty good chance that he will, he's probably just going to vacate the 185 belt and go up to 205 and try to take on Yuri or Jamal Hill and make one of these exciting strikers clashes where he can just fill out that frame and be a big 205er, which will open the door for maybe even a potential Marvin Vettori versus Khamzat Chimaev vacant title shot or something of that nature. And if Adesanya wins, he may call it a career and say, you know what, I did everything I wanted to do, including beat the guy that I couldn't beat. So there's a lot of things to still be answered at 185, but I think Khamzat Chimaev fighting Robert Whittaker is a perfect start to get the ball rolling at the top and see where this division's going to shake out.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And Khamzat Chimaev is a top 3 talent. We all know that after seeing what he's done in just the short time he's been in the UFC. But to find out if you're actually championship caliber, you need to get in there with the Robert Whittakers of the world, because those types of guys who have been there, held the belt, and then stayed at the top of a division are like, they're so rare, they're so hard to come by, and if you can get them on your resume, it's a real notch on your belt. Now, a lot of people have issues with Khamzat Chimaev's rise to the top. And for some reason, a lot of people don't like the meteoric rise. They want to see somebody basically go into the top 10 and then go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, all the way to the belt. And that's just not how the sport works anymore. If you have a star and you have somebody who clearly has the talent to hang with the best in the world, you need to throw them in there as quickly as possible, because this game is very unforgiving. It leaves your body beat up, bruised, mangled, and then sometimes you don't even get to see the most potential out of the fighters that you really thought could make it, because they had so many wars in the training rooms and then on their way to the top that they never actually got to showcase their best, truest self for a title fight. And what happened with Khamzat at the beginning is nobody knew who he was unless you were really deep into MMA. So people were willing to take a fight against him. Whatever, he's 6-0, 4-0, whatever, we'll take a fight. Then he mangles you in his UFC debut. And then 9 days later, he's fighting again. He beats somebody. And very quickly, he became one of those guys that everybody wants to avoid. They might say his name on Twitter, but they damn sure aren't signing to fight with him. And after a little while, people are like, all right, well, somebody's got to fight him. And then you have some of the real tough guys in the sport, like a Gerald Mearschart, take the fight, get finished instantly. And then people start to say, you know, I'm just going to avoid this guy at all costs, which pushes him right past a bunch of people in the queue, takes him right into the top of a division, and then he gets a war like Gilbert Burns gave him. And that sort of opened up people's eyes back to okay, well, I'm willing to fight this guy because I see he's got some holes. That's because he fought Gilbert Burns. It's not because he's just in there with anybody and was having really good nights and is having an off night. Khamzat's one of the best in the world, so is Gilbert Burns. And I think now, with Khamzat Chimaev entering the top 3, as Dana White's saying, of the 185 division, you're going to have some people that aren't going to be willing to fight him unless they're a true dog, a true champion, and a true #1 contender like Robert Whittaker, who's been there, done that, and seen every form of fighting that you can possibly see in the octagon. And I feel like this is a great fight for him. It's a #1 contenders match in my mind. And I think that if Khamzat Chimaev gets his hand raised against Robert Whittaker, not a single person should bat an eye if he gets the next title shot.
I totally agree.